Hello everyone, I am Michael Ruger. I am the managing partner of Greenbush Financial Group. When conducting financial plans for retirees, we're finding that a lot more retirees are planning on owning two houses in retirement. Their primary house and some secondary residence, whether it's a condo down south, a lake house, a ski lodge, but you have to do a lot of extra planning if you're going to maintain two residences. One of the questions you have to ask yourself is, are you going to have enough assets and income to be able to support two houses through the retirement years? Should you purchase a house before you retire or after you retire? Also, how do you plan on purchasing a house? Are you going to take a mortgage? Are you going to pay for the house in cash? And there's some tax strategies behind that decision. And we'll cover a few other topics like who's going to own the house? Are you going to set up a trust to own the house? And once you have residence in possibly two different states, are you going to claim domicile in another state for tax purposes? The most important question you have to ask yourself first is, do you have enough assets and income in retirement to be able to support two houses? While both houses may not have a mortgage, depending on your financial situation, they'll still have property taxes, association dues potentially, utilities, homeowners insurance, maintenance. Like, you really have to plan that out if you're going to be in retirement for 20 years. And one of the mistakes we see a lot of retirees make is they underestimate the impact of inflation. Inflation is the cost of everything just going up incrementally each year. Property taxes going up, utilities going up, all of those things. So if you assume a 3% increase every single year for inflation, if you're on a fixed pension, you might say, well, yeah, I can afford it now, but what happens when those costs go up incrementally? Are you going to be able to afford it 10 years from now? The second mistake that we see retirees make is they forget about taxes. If you have to take larger distributions from pre-tax retirement accounts or realize more gains in after-tax accounts in order to support those larger expenses associated with that second house, that higher income could bump you up into higher tax brackets. It could increase your Medicare premiums. You could lose tax deductions or tax credits you were receiving before. Any number of items can come into play that you didn't plan for that could reduce your assets more quickly. The third mistake we see retirees make is they forget that real estate is more of an illiquid asset. And in retirement, you have to be very careful how much of your total net worth you tie up into real estate because you're not getting a paycheck anymore. And if for some reason the economy hits a recession and all of your retirement assets drop, that then force you to go and sell that second house. And if there's a recession, everyone's probably selling real estate at the same time, so it could take longer to sell that house. You just have to make sure you have enough liquid assets outside of the real estate to be able to meet your needs. The next topic we're going to address is whether it's better to purchase that house prior to retirement or after you retire. And there's two clear advantages to purchasing the house prior to retiring. The first being, if you plan to take a mortgage, it's a lot easier to get a mortgage while you still have earned income than after you've officially retired and now you're living off your assets, because banks care about income. We've had clients that have retired with over $1 million and then they go to apply for that mortgage after they've retired and have difficulty getting a mortgage from the bank because they don't have any more earned income on the table. So if you're planning on taking a mortgage, definitely advantages to doing that before you retire. And also, anytime you acquire a second house, there's usually expenses associated with acquiring that second house, whether it's upgrading appliances, painting, renovations. It's a lot easier to spend that money while you're still getting a paycheck than trying to figure out those costs going out after you've already retired. Now we're going to talk about the pros and cons of taking a mortgage versus not taking a mortgage on that second house. And it's really more of a tax strategy. Retirees going to retirement, the thought of taking another mortgage right before they're about to retire gives them goosebumps because they realize they usually are reducing debt because they want to lower their expenses. But there are definitely cases where taking a mortgage makes sense. But the reason why we sometimes recommend that a retiree takes a mortgage for the second house may not be the one you're thinking of. So people think of the interest rate game of, if I can get a 30-year mortgage for 3% and keep my money invested and earn 5 or 6, then that's the play. But that's not necessarily the reason why we recommend this strategy. It's more about looking at your total assets and saying, if we have to draw money from various sources, what's going to be the tax impact? If you are very pre-tax heavy, meaning most of your money is locked up in traditional IRAs, 401ks, and the more money you draw out, the more it increases your taxable income, We may not want to take a $300,000 distribution all in 1 year to pay for a house in cash, because that's going to put you in a top tax bracket. It may be more wise to actually take the mortgage, and then that allows you to take small distributions from your retirement accounts each year to make those mortgage payments without putting you up in those higher brackets. However, if we do have clients that have the after-tax cash that allows them to purchase that second house outright, more often than not, we will have them do that. Again, it's not an interest rate game. It's more of a you're entering the retirement years, and there's going to be a lot of variables that come into your picture over the next 20 years. When we do retirement projections, we're taking estimated guesses about interest rates, about inflation, about rates of return, about your life expectancy, but these are all educated guesses. The only thing you 100% control is how much you're going to be spending each year. So if we can not take that mortgage and lower your expenses, it's going to provide you with more planning flexibility down the road. Having two houses in retirement can potentially provide some tax advantages to you, because you may, depending on how much time you spend between the two houses, be able to choose what state you are a resident of for tax purposes. But you have to be very careful with this. And this is kind of a topic all in itself. So what I'm going to do below is I'm going to list two videos that we have. The one is changing state of residency from New York to Florida, and then also how do you go about changing your state of domicile. The final planning item to consider is who should own that second house in retirement. Should you own it outright, or should you actually go and set up a trust to own that house? Because you can set up a revocable trust or irrevocable trust. They have different benefits associated with them, but like both of them avoid probate when you or the second spouse passes, so it passes more easily to beneficiaries. The irrevocable trust may protect that house from a long-term care event down the road, where the revocable trust does not do that. So these are all questions you should be asking yourself as you title that real estate. And again, I'll put a link to a video below that goes in these topics about houses owned by trusts. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to me at moneysmartboard.com. Thank you.